There are moments in life when everything you know can be shattered with a single phone call. 2 months ago, my husband Tim, the very center of my world, vanished from my life without warning. It was a senseless accident on a rainy highway, something that no one could have prevented. I wake up in the mornings without him, and go to bed at night with him still gone. It still doesn't feel real that this is my life now. People try to comfort me by saying, time heals all wounds. But ever since that day, my own sense of time has completely stopped. The hole in my heart seems to grow bigger and deeper with each passing day. Since losing my husband, I've retreated into myself, keeping my distance from everyone, especially from my own family. I know they're worried about me, but their sympathy only makes my pain harder to bear. I was never particularly close to my younger sister Jenny. She always seemed to live in a completely different world, shining bright in ways I never could. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang, cutting through the silence. Jenny's name flashed on the screen. It was so unusual that I remember my heart skipped a beat. Hey, Heather. Next Sunday, we're throwing a birthday party for my sweet little Matt's first birthday. You have to come. Matt, my tiny nephew whom I'd never even met. Honestly, I hesitated. Would it really be okay for someone like me, weighed down with grief, to show up at such a joyful event? But then, a thought struck me. Maybe this was a chance, maybe a gift from above, an opportunity to reconnect with my family, who I'd kept at arm's length for so long. Maybe this was the first step to climbing out of the depths of sorrow. So I went into town and searched for the perfect gift. I chose a sterling silver dinnerware set from a renowned jeweler, hoping it would bless my nephew's bright future. The weight of it in my hands seemed to give strength to my resolve. I pictured myself handing the gift to Jenny, laughing together, holding Matt in my arms. Yes, I could do this. Even if it's just a small step, I needed to move forward. Back then, I had no idea. That party wouldn't heal my wounds. Instead, it would become the beginning of a cruel trap, one that would strike even deeper and leave me more broken than ever. On the day of the party, I took a deep breath and rang Jenny's doorbell. The moment the door opened, I was hit by a wave of lively music, sweet perfume, and laughter that seemed to bounce off the walls. Inside, the house looked like something out of a fairy tale, pastel-colored balloons and garlands everywhere. The living room was packed with elegantly dressed guests, Jenny's friends and distant relatives, chatting with drinks in hand. Everyone looked so happy, while I, in my black dress, like a mourner at a funeral, felt like a colorless ghost, utterly out of place. Heather, you made it. Jenny wove through the crowd to greet me, her figure hugging dress and flawless makeup making her shine. Happy birthday. Where's Matt? Oh, he's napping in the back room. I'll introduce you later, she said, her eyes drifting to the fancy shopping bag in my hand. Oh wow, what's this? It's a present for Matt. It's nothing special, really. Don't be silly. Thank you so much. With a theatrical gesture, Jenny hugged me, then immediately took the bag and disappeared toward a table piled high with gifts. That was the extent of our conversation, just a fleeting exchange, yet I felt exhausted. About an hour later, when the party was at its peak, Jenny suddenly picked up a microphone and tapped her glass. Everyone, can I have your attention for just a moment? The music stopped, and every eye in the living room turned to her. I looked up, wondering what she was about to say. I'm truly happy to be able to celebrate my son Matt's first birthday with all of you today. Thank you so much. Warm applause filled the room. Jenny smiled, pausing for effect, then, as if dropping a bomb, spoke her next words. And on this special day, I have something very important to share with you all. She took a breath and looked straight at me. For a split second, I saw something cold flash in her eyes. Until today, I've kept this a secret. But the truth is, Matt's real father is. Someone in the room let out a sharp, audible gasp. The man who died 2 months ago, my brother-in-law, Tim, Heather's husband, he's Matt's real father. Every sound in the living room vanished. It was as if time itself had frozen. All at once, everyone's gaze turned toward me, piercing me with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. What is she saying? Tim? My mind went completely blank. I couldn't process any of it, but Jenny just kept talking, her voice turning cold and sharp, nothing like the sweet tone from earlier. As Tim's only child, Matt is rightfully entitled to his inheritance of the $250,000 he left behind. Half of that, and the house Heather currently lives in, should actually go to this child. I could feel the world twisting around me, reality warping in slow motion. Jenny's words seeped into my heart like poison, each syllable carrying more malice than the last. Was this some sick joke? Or was I still trapped in the nightmare of losing my husband, unable to wake up? Her words cut through the cheerful air of the party, like shards of glass. All around, the guests whispered nervously, unsure how to react. Some looked sympathetic, but most were curious, their stares pricking my skin like needles. Somehow, I managed to move my unsteady legs forward, coming to stand in front of Jenny. This must be some kind of mistake, Jenny. Tim would never do something like that. My voice was so small and shaky, I almost didn't recognize it as my own. But Jenny didn't even flinch. She gave me a smile, half triumphant, half pitying, then pulled her phone from her bag. Mistake. I don't blame you for thinking that. You never really knew Tim at all, did you? She unlocked her screen with practiced ease and thrust the phone in front of my face. Can you still say the same thing after seeing this? It was a photograph. A restaurant by the sea I recognized instantly. But sitting next to Tim, leaning close and grinning from ear to ear, was Jenny, not me. Suddenly, my heart felt as if it had been dropped into ice water. Since when? Since the summer before last. That weekend you told me you'd be away on business trips and asked me to watch your house. Jenny began to swiping through the photos, almost enjoying herself. More and more secret memories appeared. A picture of the two of them kissing in what looked like a luxury hotel suite. Jenny curled up asleep in Tim's car. And worst of all, a string of private messages. I can't keep lying to Heather any longer. Jenny, you're the only one I love. When are you going to tell her the truth? I swear I will, before the baby is born. I want to start a new life with you and our child. Every word seared itself into my brain. All the while I'd been suffering through infertility treatments, he'd been planning a new family with my own sister right under my nose. At that moment, everything I believed in, love, kindness, all the happy memories of my marriage, was twisted into something ugly, nothing but a filthy lie. No, this is all a lie. Clinging to one last hope, I turned desperately to my parents, who stood nearby. Mom, Dad, say something. Jenny's lost her mind. But neither of them tried to stop her. Instead, both looked away, shame written all over their faces. Their silence said everything. You knew? At my question, my mother opened her mouth hesitantly. Heather, we just... Since when? At the sound of my low voice, my father finally spoke, sounding resigned and heavy. Jenny told us about 7 months before the accident. 7 months. The words felt like something inside me finally snapped. All this time, they'd known everything. While pretending to pity me, listening to my stories at family dinners, they'd all been part of this cruel, calculated betrayal behind my back. There was not a single person in this room who was truly on my side. Not one person who really loved me. Not now, not ever. I found myself unable to say another word. I simply took a slow, unsteady step backward, burning the faces of these traitors into my memory. Then I turned and ran from that place, away from everyone who had ever betrayed me. I heard my mother call my name behind me, but I never looked back. I have no memory of how I managed to get home from that hellish party. All I can recall is the way my hands shook with anger and despair as I gripped the steering wheel. Back at home, I was just a shell of myself. Photos of Tim and me laughing together, his favorite mug, the clothes still hanging in his closet. Every little relic of our happiness now felt like a cruel prop, mocking me in every corner of the house. I collapsed onto the sofa and stared at the ceiling for hours. No tears came. It felt as if grief itself had been blown away, so utterly overwhelmed by the shock of betrayal. Instead, I felt something cold and hard begin to take shape deep inside me. It was anger. A few days later, just as I expected, I received a thick envelope from Jenny. It was from a lawyer, official legal documents formally demanding a division of Tim's estate. Inside, a meticulously listed inventory of Tim's assets spelled out, in cold legal terms, that Matt was entitled to half of everything. My phone rang endlessly with calls and messages from my family. My father, pleading, "Heather, please, just let us explain." My mother, trying to justify, "Don't make a scene. Do it for the child." But their words meant nothing to me anymore. I blocked every single number. In my heart, I'd already cut all ties with them. There was no way I was going to give in and let them have their way with what Tim left behind. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about my dignity. I opened my contacts and searched for the name of someone I'd been introduced to by a college friend, a top attorney specializing in inheritance law. After a few rings, a calm male voice answered. "Kevin Smith, Law Offices. How can I help you?" With trembling lips, I began to speak. "My name is Heather. I'm about to be dragged into a legal battle over my husband's inheritance, against my own sister." Kevin listened to my scattered story all the way to the end without interrupting once. And when I finished, he said firmly, "Heather, I know this must be incredibly hard. But you're not alone. I promise, I will do everything in my power to protect you." The moment I heard those words, it was like a faint, warm light breaking through the ice around my heart. Yes, I will fight. Even if the whole world turns against me, I'll never give up on my own life. My counterattack had begun. But the first meeting with Kevin tested the limits of my resolve. Copies of all the evidence Jenny's side had gathered were spread out across the heavy conference table. "To be perfectly honest, the situation does not look good," Kevin said evenly. "The photos, the message logs, and most of all, the fact that your parents are backing Jenny's claim. With all this, there's a high chance the court will be sympathetic to Jenny and her son. I knew that already. But hearing it again from an expert made the truth hit even harder, weighing me down. Could I really win? Was this fight just a hopeless, desperate struggle? Doubt crept in like a black fog, slowly suffocating my confidence. That night, as I sat sunk deep into the sofa, staring at nothing, my phone buzzed softly. On the screen was Wynne, my mother-in-law. I'd told her about today's meeting. After the party, it was Wynne, not my own parents, who came running and wrapped me in her arms. Even when Tim was alive, she and I had been able to talk about anything, as if we were real mother and daughter. But now, I was almost afraid to feel her kindness, knowing I might disappoint her. After a few rings, I steeled myself and picked up, my voice barely a whisper. "Hello? Heather? It's me. Are you okay? I was worried about how your meeting went today." Her warm, caring voice on the other end was just the same as always. And in that moment, everything I'd been holding back threatened to overflow. "I'm sorry. The situation. It's as bad as it gets. The lawyer says the evidence Jenny prepared is just too strong. Even my own parents are backing her lies. He says I barely have a chance of winning." I could hear Wynne gasp on the other end of the line as she listened to my trembling voice. After a few seconds of silence, she spoke with a quiet, steely determination that was nothing like before. "Heather, listen to me. This isn't over. Absolutely not." The force in her words left me momentarily stunned. "But the evidence. If it's evidence you need, we have it too. There's one undeniable truth that can overturn all of Jenny's lies from the ground up." She paused for a moment. "It's something I promised Tim I would take to the grave to protect his honor. I've kept it to myself all these years. But this isn't the time to hesitate. Tim's real honor is in protecting the happiness you shared. Heather, can we meet tomorrow? There's something I have to give you. And there's a truth I need to tell you in person. I could feel her seriousness even through the phone, and all I could do was nod weakly. The next day, we agreed to meet at a quiet cafe in the center of town. I arrived first, nervously sipping coffee to soothe my dry throat as I waited. A few minutes later, Wynne walked in. She sat quietly across from me, her expression full of pain as she looked at me. Thank you for coming. First, I need you to believe this. Tim never betrayed you. Those words hit me like a tidal wave. Gina called me, crying, after she found out what happened at the party. She was heartbroken about having to break a promise she made to Tim. But she said, if it's to protect my brother's honor and Heather, then I have no choice. So she told me everything. Wynne slowly, carefully relayed what her daughter had shared. About 6 months before the accident, Tim came to his sister Gina, desperate for advice. He told her that your sister Jenny had been pursuing him relentlessly. At first, he tried to turn her down gently, but her behavior escalated. She even showed up at his work. No, Tim loved you too much to ever want you to find out. He told Gina, Heather is sensitive. I can't let her suffer because of family drama. So he asked her to keep it secret. All those photos and messages Jenny showed at the party? They were all malicious fabrications, created by her alone. Wynne met my eyes directly. Then, from her leather bag, she pulled out a slightly worn brown envelope and slid it across the table to me. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside were several medical records, bearing the name of a local general hospital. The moment I read the technical medical terms, I was at a loss for words. Diagnosis: azoospermia. Male infertility. Probability of natural conception is nearly 0. It felt like I'd been struck in the head. Wynne quietly explained. When he was a student, Tim was in a car accident. He survived, but afterwards, the doctor found an abnormality in one of his testicles. Further testing revealed he was infertile. The only people who ever knew were me and Gina, whom Tim told himself. Tears streamed down my cheeks, unstoppable. But they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief, because the love I believed in had never been tainted. My husband had never betrayed me. Even while suffering as a man, he kept that secret with his sister, fighting the burden alone so he could protect me. A new feeling took hold in my heart, a quiet, unyielding resolve, harder and stronger than anger. This was no longer just a fight for my own dignity. Now, I was fighting to protect the honor of the man I loved, and the truth of our marriage together with his family. With this, I could completely overturn the flawless lie Jenny had created. It was the one piece of absolute, undeniable evidence. I gripped the medical records tightly. The air in the courtroom was cold and tense. In the gallery, relatives from the party and curious onlookers whispered, their eyes boring into me. All I could do was stare straight ahead, clutching Kevin's hand tightly at my side. On the witness stand, Jenny played the tragic heroine. A plain black dress, barely any makeup. With the occasional tear and trembling voice, she told her forbidden love story with Tim as if it were gospel truth. We truly loved each other. But we couldn't bear to hurt my sister, so we kept it secret. My parents took the stand next, perfectly backing up Jenny's lies. My mother cried as she described their struggle with the relationship. My father testified gravely that Tim was truly looking forward to Matt's birth. Their story was airtight, and even the judge's face seemed to be softening with sympathy for Jenny. I could even hear quiet sobs from the gallery. It felt like I was being slowly suffocated, caught in an inescapable web of malice. Jenny's witnesses finished, and the courtroom fell silent. Kevin stood up quietly. Your Honor, at this time, the defense would like to submit a decisive piece of evidence. He handed copies of the medical records Wynne had given him to the judge and Jenny's attorney. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as Jenny's lawyer looked over the documents, a deep frown creasing his brow. What is this? These are the test results from when the late Tim was in a car accident as a student. As clearly stated, he was incapable of fathering children from that time onward. The entire courtroom fell dead silent. For the first time, Jenny's once confident expression froze. That's a lie. It's fake. You're just trying to steal my son's inheritance with forged documents. Jenny shrieked, but Kevin remained calm. Is that so? Then let's settle this with the most reliable method available. He paused, then raised his voice to address the entire court. We request a DNA test to determine the biological relationship between Matt and the late Tim. In that instant, all color drained from Jenny's face. She tried to force a crooked smile. It's pointless. Tim's body was so badly damaged in the accident, he was cremated. There's no one left for comparison. No, Kevin replied gently, shaking his head. There is. He turned to the doors at the back of the courtroom. We'd like to call Wynn to the stand, Tim's biological mother. At that, the doors opened and Wynn entered the courtroom with quiet dignity. A wave of shock swept through the gallery. Jenny and my parents stared at her in utter disbelief. Wynn walked straight to the witness stand and spoke clearly to the judge. I'll take the test. If Matt is truly my grandson, let the truth be revealed here and now. The judge looked gravely from Wynn to Jenny, who was now ghostly pale, and brought down the gavel. Request granted. A DNA test will be conducted, and court will reconvene once results are available. Jenny collapsed into her chair like a marionette whose strings had been cut. My mother rushed to support her, but both their faces had lost all trace of confidence. Those 3 weeks waiting for the DNA results felt like an eternity. Inside, I was torn between wanting desperately to believe in the truth Wynn had given me and the fear of what might happen if things went wrong. But unlike all the hopeless nights before, I could finally see a glimmer of dawn at the end of the nightmare. And then, the day arrived. I held tightly to Wynn's hand, barely breathing, as the judge began to speak. The DNA test results were read aloud, and a hush fell over the courtroom. Based on the submitted DNA evidence, there is no genetic relationship between Matt and Wynn. Therefore, it is conclusively determined that the late Tim is not Matt's biological father. The judge's solemn voice echoed through the room. Jenny sat there, shaking uncontrollably, muttering, "No, no," over and over. My parents beside her looked as if they'd turned to stone. The elaborate web of lies they'd spun together crumbled instantly before the undeniable truth of science. The court finds fully in favor of the defendant, Heather. The sound of the gavel marked the end of this long nightmare. Outside the courthouse, the cold air felt wonderful on my flushed cheeks. As I took a deep breath, my parents came rushing over, panic and regret written all over their faces. My mother sobbed, and my father looked more broken than I'd ever seen him. Heather, please forgive us. Jenny fooled us. Can't we try to be a family again? We're so sorry for everything. But their words left no trace on my heart. I looked them both in the eye and told them, quietly but firmly, forgive you? It's far too late for that. This isn't some silly mistake you can brush off as being tricked. Even while I was suffering through infertility treatments, even while I broke down at Tim's funeral, you stood by my side pretending to be caring parents, knowing the entire truth. Your apologies aren't for me. You just want to escape your own guilt, for your own sake. The family I once longed for no longer exists. Right there, in front of them, I pulled out my phone and deleted their numbers, without a shred of hesitation. And I swore I would never look back again. I turned and walked away. Across the street, Wynn leaned against her car, waiting quietly for me. The moment she saw my face, she asked softly, "Are you okay?" At that gentle question, all the tension inside me finally melted away. For the first time in months, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Yes, I'm okay, Wynn. Or rather, I will be, from now on. As we got into the car, I finally brought up something that had been on my mind. That apartment in the city that Tim left behind. There are too many painful memories for me there. I just can't live in it anymore. If it's not too much trouble, I'd like you to have it. Wynn's eyes widened in shock. Oh, Heather, I could never accept something like that. Please, take it. You helped me get my life back. This isn't just a thank you. It's the first gift I'm giving, by my own choice, to the new family I found. She was speechless, emotion glistening in her eyes. Gently, she reached out and squeezed my hand. Thank you. I've never had a daughter of my own. To think I'd finally gained such a wonderful one, right at the very end. Half a year has passed since then. I've returned to work and am pouring myself into an exciting new project. On weekends, Wynn and I meet for dinner or visit art museums together. The honest stories she shares about Tim's childhood somehow bring me peace. I've received several letters of apology from Jenny and my parents, but I throw them away without opening a single one. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the mirror and am surprised by the woman I see there. She's not the person I used to be. She's no longer the broken woman crushed by grief, nor the widow trembling with rage. Life really is strange. Just when I thought I'd lost my family forever, I found a new one in the most unexpected way. This wasn't the life I had planned. But maybe, just maybe, this is exactly where I was always meant to be.
My name is Sylvia. I am 28 years old and have a creative job at a gaming company in New York. On the surface, it seems like I'm living a trouble-free life, but in reality,